With reigns officially concluded since yesterday in his last episode 120, I think now it's the perfect time to take a look at the Firewall archetype. Used by, of course, the main protagonist of Reigns, Yusaku Fujiki, or Playmaker as he's more commonly known. Yes, this is the archetype revolving around the ever so fabled Firewall Dragon, the ace monster of Yusaku Fujiki, which wasn't used all that much, which actually, in my opinion, actually kind of sounds like what an ace monster should be. Like his signature monster, which most people actually confuse with his ace, is Decode Talker. We'll get to him in a second, but not in this video, in the next one. Signature monsters are something like a secondary ace monster in my opinion. So, for example, his Decode Talker, or Code Talkers in general, were the equivalent of Yusei's Junk Warrior or all the other warrior synchro monsters. So, yeah, Decode Talker kind of gets the same vibe. Well, his true official ace monster is Firewall Dragon, due to him having 2500 attack like all the other ace monsters. So yeah, and surprisingly he didn't appear in the final duel, which was actually very disappointing. His final evolution did, which I'll get to in a second. And yeah, that's basically the last episode and duel I think he ever appeared in was episode 80, which is a lot far back from the final duel, like 40 episodes away from the last duel. So yeah, and he only appeared like 4 or 5 times in total, which is crazy for an ace monster to appear that few times in the show. So yeah, but anyway, yeah, it's also, let's get into it, shall we? Firewall Dragon is a Link 4, pointing up, down, left and right. The entire archetype is based around it. It's a light Cyberse monster, requires 2+ monsters as material, and once while this card is face up on the field, quick effect, you can target monsters on the field and or graveyard up to the number of monsters co-linked to this card, return them to the hand. And if a monster this card points to is destroyed by battle or sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one monster from your hand. So yeah, everyone familiar with the game should probably twig the fact right away, and by just looking at the monster, that it's banned. And yes, Firewall Dragon is the very first ace monster ever to be banned by Konami in the official game. Mostly due to the second effect. However, the first effect can also be pretty busted too, due to how so amazing how it can offer some amazing recursion and potential play disruption towards the opponent. The second effect, the part it was most used for prior to its ban, isn't once per turn, meaning it was be able to abuse it in various cannon soldier shenanigans and loops. So yeah, that pretty much screams ban list straight away. However, the second effect can only be the first effect, sorry, can only be used once while this card is face up on the field. So that should already give. That was actually the effect which was patched up most nicely, since it wasn't gonna be as broken unless you pair it up with Signet Backdoor, which could actually turn Firewall Dragon into a 5000 attack direct attacker and refresh its first effect. So yeah. Anyway, what else can I say? It's if we ignore the ban list, it's the best ace monster currently. But if we do consider that it's currently banned, that honor still goes to Stardust Dragon, which is another one of my favorite monsters ever. So yeah, Stardust Dragon is my absolute favorite ace monster. This one comes a very close second. If they actually, well, I failed to get him in time in order to take a swing at him before he got banned. So yeah, if he ever comes back, I'm putting him in my deck pronto. This is actually one of the very few Link monsters that I actually want to see off the ban list. This and Summon Sorceress are monsters which I like to see off the ban list pretty soon. So yeah, if he actually comes back, check in how many of them Konami actually. Well, if he's on the limited list, yeah, you get to play one of them, and if he's on the semi-limited list, then two. I doubt he'll ever get unlimited though, due to how good he can be. I mean, if the second effect gets somewhat of a soft once per turn, maybe or a hard once per turn, I don't know. Then maybe I can actually see him getting a limited or semi-limited treatment. So yeah. Alright, that's enough about the Firewall Dragon. Let's take a look at some of their other monsters. First up, we have their only one of their two only main deck monsters. First up being Firewall Guardian. This is a level 4 with 100 attack and 2000 defense, Cybers. And if this card is sent to the graveyard for the link summon of a Cybers monster, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. When an attack is declared involving a Link monster and an opponent's Link monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard, negate that attack, and if you do until the end of this turn, then the original attack of that opponent's monster becomes 0. Also, it is unaffected by other card effects, except its own. You can only use each effect of Firewall Guardian once per turn. The protection from battle is neat, but you're most likely gonna be using this in order to spam some more Link monsters or go into one of their Xyz monsters, which we'll get into later since it's up level 4. And not to mention, you can actually summon any other level 4, I mean rank 4, in order by using this card's effect. So yeah, it's also a really beefy 2k wall if you want to. If you brick somewhat early in the game and you want to set it, maybe the opponent runs into it with something stronger, then you have actually the protection ready if you want, if you like the protection so much. So yeah, nice card. And their last main deck monster is actually a ritual monster, that being Paladin of Storm Dragon. You can ritual summon this card with Signet Ritual, and at the start of the damage step, if this card attacks a monster, you can return that monster to the hand. You can tribute this card, special summon one level 5 or higher Cybers monster from your hand or deck, but it cannot activate its effects in this turn, and you can only use each effect of Paladin of Storm Dragon once per turn. Signet Ritual is actually a ritual spell which can ritual summon any Cybers ritual monster, and it has actually a graveyard effect where you can banish it along with a ritual monster in order to special summon two Signet tokens, or Cybers tokens, however they are called, if you control no monsters. Or do you actually need to control no monsters in order to activate this card? I need to check, but anyway, as far as this thing goes, well, the Archetype does not have any tribute monsters in its main deck, so you're most likely going to be using this in some Salamangreat builds if you actually care to run this thing, since Salamangreats have some tribute monsters up their sleeves, or any other Cybers deck which actually has tribute monsters. But anyway, you're most likely not going to use that effect because the battling effect is actually pretty busted. If it attacks a monster, you can actually return it to the hand, which makes it a better choice, a much upgraded some version of Neospatian Grand Mole. And yeah, there's also one more monster which actually has that effect, that being Cybers Quantum Dragons, which is a level 7 Synchro monster, also a Cybers. So yeah, if you have a Cybers Ritual build and don't focus on Synchro spamming, this is a very nice replacement for Cybers Quantum Dragon. So yeah, good card as well. Alright, now going on to their extra deck. First up, let's go on to their Xyz monster, that being Firewall Exceed Dragon. This is a rank 4 Cybers, requires 2 level 4 monsters, 2500 attack, 2000 defense. Dark monster, unlike the Link 4 Firewall Dragon, and this Xyz summoned card gains 500 attack times the total Link rating of Link monsters linked to this card. You can detach 2 Xyz materials from this card, then target one Link 4 Cybers Link monster in your graveyard, special summon it to your field so it points to this card. Also, your opponent cannot special summon other monsters or attack directly for the rest of this turn. Yeah, this card was actually, well, revealed and came out as when Firewall Dragon was already hard and laid to rest on the ban list, so to many people this seems like a tease in some sort of way that during the next ban list, the Firewall Dragon might actually get released from the clutches of Konami. And boy, oh boy, I can't wait. It's a bit more than a month until the next ban list, but I'm still hyped as hell. And anyway, yeah. As for this thing's effect, well, it can revive your powerful Link monsters, but it also seems like it was purposefully made in order to revive Firewall Dragons specifically, due to only being able to revive Link 4 Cybers monsters, of which the following are relevant the most. Again, if we ignore the ban list, there are some others which you can revive. First of all, it's Firewall Dragon, of course. Then Topologic Gumbler and Gumbler Dragon, Bomber Dragon, and Zeroboros, and that's it. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can maybe revive some other Link 4s that I might not be aware of, but yeah, these are the most prominent and optimal ones this card can revive. So yeah, I also like the fact that you can you have to detach both Xyz materials in order to activate this card, which is a like I said, I'm not really fond of the Xyz monsters using both of their Xyz materials in order to activate a very simple effect, which is kind of the case with this card, Dark Rebellion, Xyz Dragon, number 106, Giant Hand, and some other cards like that. If it was something like Ptolemaeus or the Lightning, then I would have probably tolerated a bit more, but this is a simple revival effect. Yeah, you revive a huge beat stick, but still, with a powerful effect, potentially, so yeah, but it's still, I would have actually liked it if it actually required one Xyz material, so yeah. As for why you would want to run this thing, well, we'll get to that, surely, but yeah, let's go on to their Link monsters. Well, we start out very humble, well, disregarding Firewall Dragon. First up we have the Link 2 Proxy Dragon. It's a Link 2, 1400 attack, requires 2 monsters, points left and right, and if a card you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can destroy one of your monsters this card points to instead. Pretty okay protection, a bit starter deck-ish, but it still sees massive plays in some various extra Link shenanigan decks, so yeah. Good card overall, but nothing too spectacular in the long run. It's most likely gonna be used as a Link material if you don't care about its protection effect all that much, but still, the option's there if you want to take it. And their other Link 2 monster is Security Dragon. This one points up and down, requires 2 monsters, has 1100 attack, Link 2, of course, and once while this card is face up on the field, if this card is co-linked, you can target one monster your opponent controls and return it to the hand. You can only use this effect of Security Dragon once per turn. This is basically a baby version of Firewall Dragon. Heck, even Proxy Dragon is also a baby version of Firewall Dragon, but yeah, it's you usually do meet the requirements in order to bounce back an opponent's card. However, I'm not sure if this card is actually a quick effect. I think it would actually mention if the card is a quick effect, so I'm gonna treat it like this thing is not a quick effect, so I'm gonna say I would have loved it more if it was a quick effect, because you can actually pull some fancy disruption using this thing's effect, so yeah. Also it is used in various decks which can afford to make it, usually Extra Link, the spammers, so yeah, it's also a nice card. And their final monster is the ever so legendary Firewall Dragon Darkfluid. It's the first ever Link 5 in the game, points up, left, right, bottom left, and bottom right. It's has 3000 attack, it requires 3+ effect monsters, And if this card is link summoned, you can place counters on this card equal to the number of Cyberse monsters in your graveyard, all of a different monster card type. Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, or Xyz. Gains 2500 attack for each of these counters on this card and during the battle phase only. When your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can remove one counter from this card. Negate the activation also if if this effect was activated between this card's attack declaration and the end of the damage step. It can make a second attack in the row. So yeah, this is pretty Quasar-like, and basically it's a combination of Quasar and just Stardust Dragon OTK with Converging Wishes, and yeah, I like it all the way then if it's a reference to that. And yeah, it's also a very beefy beat stick, so yeah, it's a fantastic card. You usually tend to build OTKs in Salamangrate Cybers decks using this card's effect, but in Firewall decks he usually is also a very beefy OTK alternative, and since he can hit the battle phase with 13,000 attack, and can attack multiple times by dropping a 2500 attack each time it does. However, your opponent has to activate a monster effect in order to prevent that. In order to make sure that happens. But yeah, still, this is a very nice OTK machine. Combined with Zaborg, it can fill up the graveyard very easily with extra deck requirements. Rituals can usually be sent with Foolish Burial, and yeah, you can turbo this thing out pretty easily. So yeah, it's a very awesome card indeed. Alright, this is going to be a very tricky grading scale. Again, it's an archetype mostly focused around extra decks, so yeah, everything depends on everything from consistency, power. Well, consistency, this is actually a mistake which I made with Topologics, which I should have given them the power at 3 out of 3 because they also have very powerful attack values and powerful effects. So yeah, to correct myself, I give Topologics a power at 3 out of 3. So yeah, now on to this grading scale. For Firewalls, I give consistency, comeback ability, and I give 1 out of 3 because that purely depends on the type of deck you actually splash them into. Protection gets a very minuscule 2 out of 3 because they have some decent forms of protection by themselves, and most likely, and protection as a whole mostly depends on the type of deck you're splashing them into. And as for versatility and power, they all get fat 3 out of 3s because they're simply that powerful, especially Darkfluid. Can't wait until it gets to the TCG. The fun is going to rack up tremendously as soon as it does. So yeah. So those were Firewall Dragons. A bit disappointed that Firewall Dragon is still on the ban list and wasn't used in the final duel. But yeah, overall it's a very nicely managed bunch of cards. And not to mention that the ending of Reigns was absolutely beautiful and remarkable in its own right. And I can safely say that Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns is the best Yu-Gi-Oh! That ever was. And which kind of makes me nervous for Yu-Gi-Oh! 7, because 5Ds was considered the best so far, well, before Reigns came along, and then Zexal came, and it then became the worst one ever, and all thanks to its ever so bizarrely managed Season 1. And yeah, Reigns actually holds the honor of actually being the first ever Yu-Gi-Oh! And only for that matter, to which I've actually shed a tear when during the scene where I was defeated and then he was slowly dying due to how the duel was supposed to end. It was actually too much, and I've actually shed a tear. I've actually felt for I and playmaker all this time during the final duel. You know, and all those flashbacks, man, it just all built up to that climax where I was finally going to say his final farewells, and yeah, I just cannot describe it properly without actually showing you the footage, which I'm not. I didn't prepare it, and I don't tend to show anime footage during during these archetype analysis video. But anyway, it actually also raises another question, since I actually was revived, sort of. Well, his eyeball appeared and then started looking around, questioning what the hell is going on, and then show fades to black, and it shows the like trailer for the Yu-Gi-Oh! 7, which sort of ends Reigns on a cliffhanger. So yeah, so I'm asking myself, is Yu-Gi-Oh! 7 actually going to be a direct sequel to Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns? Because no other Yu-Gi-Oh! Has ever ended on a cliffhanger ever before, which makes me really curious. So yeah. Also, there is a certain comical moment which I'll actually mention in a top 10 list I'm preparing. So yeah, it's the biggest disappointment in my opinion in terms of how Reigns went is I was actually expecting a very 5Ds-ish relationship between Yusaku and Aoi, which sadly didn't turn out to be the case, and then I learned why is because the writer for the post-Dark Signers stuff of 5Ds was actually the main writer of Reigns, which explains a lot, and that's the only part of Reigns' writing and production team I'm not very fond of. I'd really I'd really like the Yu-Gi-Oh! To give very to start writing some very decent and prominent romance and chemistry between the male protagonist and the female leads, so, or rivals. Well, and Carly and Jack had a thing going during the Dark Signers arc, and then it was pushed under the rug for inexplicable reason. I was actually waiting to see the evolution of Yusei's and Aki's moment at the end of 5Ds. The opening 3 really gave that hope and promise, but sadly it was thrown out the window, or just they just blue balled us like that. Well, it's the only gripe I have and disappointment I have with Reigns. All other than that, it's a very great Yu-Gi-Oh! Show. It's a Yu-Gi-Oh! Show done right, so that's how I'm gonna describe it. 7 card archetypes and I'm already pushing 24 minutes. Good lord, I gotta cut myself off here. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos, walkthroughs and updates. Comment, like, and subscribe. And as usual, I'll upload the next part whenever I can. Shut up, phone. See you all. Have a good day and peace.